Hello, human peoples. You're listening to the podcast network of Gamefully Unemployed. To support us and gain access to great exclusive podcasts like Fox Mulder is a Maniac, Tom and Jeff Watch Batman, Star Trek The Next Futurama, and our latest show, Spiel Boys, head over to patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. We do game streaming, movie nights with our patrons every Friday night, and you can even commission your own podcast about anything you want. Literally anything, within reason, and we have to do it. You are quite frankly out of excuses not to go visit patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. That's patreon.com/GAMEFULLY unemployed, which is spelled like it sounds.
Hello. Hi. Hi.
Hi.
Hi, people. My name is David Bell.
I'm Abe Epperson.
And we just watched The Fabelmans.
The Fabelmans! Spielberg!
The lights change how everything looks. It's hard to find our house.
Ours is the dark house with no lights.
In this family, it's the scientists versus the artists. Sammy's on my team, takes after me.
What kind of movie are we gonna make?
Abe, first of all, thank you so much for being my guest co-host.
I'm Tom.
Yeah, you're Tom. Are you familiar with Spielberg? Have you seen any Spielberg films?
This is my first.
Oh, okay. Do you wanna plug anything at the top of this? Just tell people about yourself. So I was end plugs are fun, but like people can skip end plugs. You can't skip this, motherfuckers. So you want to plug something?
Yeah. I'm Abe, and I make movies, and I podcast about movies, and you can find them on patreon.com/smallbeans. Please come listen to me.
Do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Please come listen to him. I just watched your newest Scott Bug. That was a blast. You guys I just like how much you guys gave up on the actual staying in character part.
Yeah, we're done with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys gave up almost immediately.
Yeah,
and
for
it was
those
delightful.
that don't know, we have Cody Johnson, and I have long done. I mean, he does this character that I just found hilarious, and I was like, back in the day in Cracked, I was like, hey, we should film this guy.
Yeah.
And it's Scott Bug. He's this nonsense scientist who just doesn't say actual truths about science. And so in this day and age of false information, we decided it'd be fun to do false information podcasts about very obvious scientific stuff. And we usually have a guest who talks about their expertise on some nonsense. And it's very fun to do. So
it's so fun to listen to. I love the turn the anti-wokeness that Scott Bug has created in the new age.
I definitely started pushing him that way. When we had Sean Baby on, who's another one of our friends who's a comedian, he likes that joke. It's so funny when he does that, just because it's a very warm bow. If people, obviously a lot of people know about the Some More News. Yeah.
God, now I just want to talk about Scott Bug. What were we watching? Oh, The Fabelmans.
The Fabelmans.
Directed by Steven Spielberg. It's how did you like this film?
Honestly, I watched it on Friday at a matinee.
Okay.
It wasn't many people in the theater.
Same with mine.
It was me
Handful.
and it actually was packed in terms of not packed in the sense of a movie theater, but it was me and then a group of old Jewish women. And it was
nice.
It was kind of awesome because they laughed at literally every single one of the jokes, and I was like,
nice.
He's fucking nailing it. It was a lot of fun. And that made me sad though. Go to movies that aren't blockbusters. But I will tell. I'll answer your question though. I'll answer your question before we talk more about that. It worked on me. It really worked on me. But I check 8 out of 10 of the boxes for who this movie speaks to. I think I think this movie will always matter more to Steven Spielberg than it will to me, though.
Right. So it worked on me as a perfect way of putting it, because I agree it worked on me. I really liked this movie. I really enjoyed it. I do want to, like, it's not a pushback, because you're right. More people need to go out and see non-blockbusters for sure. Mm-hmm. But this movie, I don't actually expect that many people to see, because it's so niche.
It's
like,
so niche.
It's not typical. It's actually rather slow. Especially, like, I really liked it, again, but, like, I feel like he could have shaved off some time. I feel like it was a little self-indulgent, and I feel like Steven Spielberg has every right to do that. Like, that's part of it, where it's like, nah, you go off, Steven.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
you tell us about your childhood.
I like, in the same breath, I want to say it is indulgent, and you do feel how it's manufactured, but the concepts are very real, and he's not trying to sell you something you don't want. And because Spielberg is and always has been an honest salesman, and this is exactly what you sign up for. It hits you hard early with, if imagination was your escape when you were young, I think it is for all of us. It hits you hard.
The toy train shit. That was perfect.
In the middle, it hits you with the experience of, like, it really tackles divorce and finding yourself, something that applies to a lot of people. And it makes you feel good at the end, because it's a Spielberg movie, so it ends with triumph. You know, it's exactly what you sign up for, and he nails it. He's a master. You know,
he is. I'm a little bitter, only because it's also still very boomer, where it's like, and then he just got a job.
Yeah,
and like, they literally, like, put him in the office with John Ford, and it's like, fuck you, man. Like, you and your fucking,
I know,
your dad getting, like, 3 different houses in the movie.
So the deal, so the deal about that is that actually happened. That is,
I know,
straight
and it's
autobiographical,
great.
Literally down to the details, according to Spielberg. He's told that story before he even made the movie, and it's word for word. Like, yeah, he came in and he had a bunch of kisses on his face, and
so good.
all this lipstick and stuff.
And he was David Lynch,
and it was David Lynch, which honestly nailed it. When I first heard it, I was like, fucking, he's gonna do the David Lynch voice, because he's David Lynch. Right. And it's not that it's not John Ford, but it's definitely David Lynch doing those things, which makes it funnier.
I think that's perfect, because I think David Lynch, for people who are into movies, who are movie people, he is, like, an intimidating, like, he's the perfect comparison of, like, imagine him walking into the room and the nervousness you'd feel, and, like, also the confusion.
Yeah, he just drops on you immediately. What do you know about art?
It's perfect.
Sir Lynch.
He's terrifying.
Yeah, it's so he nailed that. And I like, at some point I do want to talk about John Ford and why he's so important to him, because I think that, in a film appreciation podcast, there's a reason why Spielberg was so fascinated with Ford, and it was such a momentous moment for him. But it's stuff like that that is indulgent. So, as we're staying broad at the top of this podcast, I think expect that if you go into this movie and you haven't seen it yet, like, it's a movie for movie lovers. It's a movie, and specifically Steven Spielberg movies. It's not like it's it's like a highlight reel of, like, oh yeah, I love all those Steven Spielberg movies. It's just him talking about how much he loves movies. That isn't for everyone necessarily, but please go.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, like, if I was, like, some 16-year-old kid who had only seen, like, Jurassic Park, like, I don't know if this movie's for them. It's just like, it's very much, like, in the context, and I think Spielberg knows that, right? Like, I don't think he didn't make this thinking this is gonna kill it in the box office. I think he knew full well what he was doing.
Yeah, I think I saw a tweet or something, which is, elucidated it kind of perfectly, where it was like Spielberg, like, colon, like that formatting they do on Twitter, where it's like, you're like, I'm gonna make blockbusters, and everyone's like, yeah, fuck yeah, blockbusters are the greatest, and then people continue to say that he's like, I'm gonna make Fabelmans. They're like, blockbusters are so cool. It's just like,
Yeah, that's the thing.
he kind of did it to himself, I guess. But that isn't
Right.
something we deserve to lob at him. Like I don't know. I am a stan for
I've seen
Spielberg,
people
so.
complain like no one's seeing the Fabelmans, and it's like again, like more people need to see like mid-range and low-budget movies in theaters for sure.
Yeah.
But the Fabelmans is not the best example.
It's just
I guess.
I think our interests and our culture have just pivoted to different stuff. You know, we like different things.
Yeah, and so I guess we should go through the plot. We don't have to like do it beat by beat,
Right.
but it's about little what's his name, Sam Fabelman.
Mm-hmm.
And he discovers movies, and his dad is like a computer geek, a Paul Dano type, and he's friends with old Superbad over there.
Seth Rogen. Yeah.
With Seth Rogen. Who
Benny.
did fine. He was good.
I think he did
always-
excellent.
I'm a big fan. It was the same with Jonah Hill in that Scorsese film.
Wolf,
There's something I
yeah.
really like about watching like stoner actors be in like these really big like art house type
Yeah.
movies and killing it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I mean, this is a completely different tangent, but I will just say, I think that just like if you look at Jordan Peele and stuff like that, like comedians have to know so many things about like the human condition in order to be funny that it's like drama is a layup if they have any emotive skills at all, and most of them do. So
Yeah, I agree.
Like almost most comedians who are like writers and comedians are like very good at that stuff. I mean, like, think about John C. Reilly, you know, like
God, yes. I think about John C. Reilly a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He's so good at both. And yeah, Seth Rogen you're right, he's killing it in this.
I think he's killing it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so the broad strokes so there's a few threads, and one is that their family's moving around a lot, and his mom is sticking it to Seth Rogen on the down low.
Although it's said that she says in a later scene, we never did what you think we did, which implies it's like we never consummated our affair. But it's clear you mentioned before Paul Dano, you know, Art Spielberg, I think is the real father's name.
Right.
But the fictional father in this case was very like a computer genius and very infatuated with like the living world. But Michelle Williams plays Spielberg's mother, is like a pianist and infatuated with art and like the promise of what doesn't exist. And fissure in their relationship, which Benny, Seth Rogen, is also on her side of, like, he's enamored with jokes and, you know, just being in the moment and dancing and all this stuff. Like, they're artists, you know?
I think he did a really good job at bridging that gap, though, of showing that he is also very much like his father. Like, part of this movie, it's probably not him making peace with it, because I'm sure he made peace with it a long time ago, but it's him sort of like putting it on paper, explaining his relationship with his parents. I'm sure it's all been dramatized because it's a movie. Like, I love that Sammy, his like superpower is film. Like, he uses film to do everything.
That's
really funny.
When it comes down to it, that's kind of the problem of the movie to me, is that he's looking for, because it's a Spielberg movie, I said earlier, it means triumph in the third act.
Right.
I do believe that in most Spielberg movies. And so when you're doing an autobiographical thing, it means that he's aiming loftily. Is that a word? I don't know. He's aiming so high for what is the triumph of Sam at the end of this film? Well, he beats all of his, you know, haters, and he does something important for film. You know, it's like it fucking raises it to this highest highs. And in that, it's like, it sounds like he does something like he invents a new camera, but it is humble. It is not necessarily that highfalutin, but like he has to kind of go far in order to make you go like, yeah, at the end,
right,
that you expect from a Spielberg film. And it doesn't feel necessarily earned because most of the movie is just this family going through their normal family woes.
That's the thing. A little of it's meandering. I almost feel like he needed to pick one. Not the film or the family, but the high school stuff or the family, because I think the high school stuff got a little distracting. What isn't to say it wasn't good, because so what we follow is them as kids at first, and then he realizes through the magic of film that his mom is there's something between her and Seth Rogen.
He catches the footage, yeah. It don't lie.
And then he exposes her he shows her the footage, and so through the magic of film, He exposes her discretion, and she's sad. And then I think he quits film for a while. They move several times, and then she kind of starts losing it, and you can tell she's unhappy. And she makes a decision to leave to go back to Seth Rogen.
Yeah. Back to Arizona.
Yeah, and then he has these bullies in high school. He's miserable, and they're super anti-Semitic and shitty to him. And through the magic of film, he beats them using the magic of film.
Yep.
By filming them. I really liked the idea behind this, is that he films one of the bullies, the less bad bully, but they're both still terrible, and he makes them seem like heroic. And I really liked that idea, because what they're circling is kind of the idea that, and he says it, he's like, I don't know why, I think it made my movie better. And it's because the bully looks like a movie star.
Yeah.
And the idea is there's this thread of like, oh, the popular kids, they're still like good looking and like aesthetically
and exciting
pleasing, and he just
to follow because stuff is happening, they're running and winning and doing all this
right. So he's like, I'm just trying to make a good movie.
Yeah, no,
and
I just reflected what I saw in that moment on that beach that day, and for the little shitty goblin bully, it's like, I'm gonna show you as you little shitty, you just piece of shit.
A little shit
and
goblin.
he hates Sam because he's like, you made me look like a piece of shit, and it's like, well, yeah, you are a piece of shit. But with the bully who's like bully light, who's like he never is really super anti-Semitic, but first of all, he does nothing to stop it, and also he encourages his friend who is an actual anti-Semite.
Yeah, I would argue he does a good job with the anti-Semitism in that there's like the straight up anti-Semites, and then there's the people who are just condoning it. Like who you would argue is just as guilty or like just as shitty. Even like his love interest is like fetishizing that he's Jewish.
Oh yeah, exactly. She is a revelation, by the way.
Oh, she's fucking
so
fantastic.
Good. The overly Christian. The Jewish grandmas that I watched this with loved those sequences.
She was perfect.
They were laughing so hard, and I was with them. But it was just so funny to see, like, oh yeah, they have had that experience of like probably men in their life becoming attracted to like Christians, and some frustration with that, and then also just looking at how ridiculous Christianity is from that perspective. It's great.
So for people who haven't seen it, I don't know why you're listening to this, but like he meets this like Jesus freak, and she's just like, it's teenage horniness versus judgment, where it's
let's
just
go
like
pray.
She's like, let's pray together, and she's just got all these pictures of Jesus on the wall, and it's terrifying and weird, but she's also like turns out to be kind of sweet.
Oh yeah.
But then in the end he's like falling in love with her, and then she's just like, no, you're just like a fun boy to
he doesn't
kiss.
really fall in love. Yeah, I like that she's like, no, I'm going to Texas A&M. I'm not going to go to California with you. What are you talking about? But he's like doing it because he, at that moment in the script, is dealing with the divorce of his parents, and he's looking for something that is permanent. So he's like, we should move. We should be together. And
I think
it's just not. It's not a fit.
And I think that's a really. So he's trying to say, I think this is actually a problem with the movie, but I appreciate it. I think he's trying to say a lot in this movie.
It's a very
and one of the
complex
things he's trying to what?
The characters are very complex.
Oh yeah, but one of the things he's trying to say that I think could have come out more that I really like is he's trying to say life isn't like a movie.
Yeah.
And that's the idea of taking these like anti-Semitic bullies and making them look heroic. And like the idea of like, come to me to LA, and her like, no. And like his real life just sort of being like falling apart. And every time he picks up a camera, he's able to capture this reality that doesn't actually exist. And that's why it really works for meeting Ford at the end. Because it's like, oh my God, he's sitting down and meeting this guy. And he turns out to just be like some weird old bastard.
I fucking love it.
Yeah, who like completely takes the magic out of cinema in his advice. And it's perfect.
It's perfect. And that's who like Ford wasn't necessarily his mentor, but like I said, that scene happened, and Ford was so revolutionary because he just made so many movies, and he did really efficient stuff. Like you see hallmarks in Ford in a lot of filmmakers, but for Spielberg, it's like he works a lot with reflections, dollying to someone's face while they look off screen in terror or majesty. Ford made films when cameras were like cumbersome and heavy, so it couldn't be moved around a lot in the middle of the shot. So Ford made these like complex wide shots seem effortless with staging and blocking. So when you look at someone like Kurosawa or you look at Spielberg, like, you know exactly where they were getting their ideas from. Doesn't mean they're copying him. It's just that he was so good at it and effortless at it that they were like, Jesus, how did he do that? But I love what Ford's personality brings to this movie, which is clearly this interaction affected Spielberg down the line, which is like just a little bit about Ford. Like, Ford is like the two examples that people give of interviews with Ford, because he's this macho man who made Western, movies with John Wayne, and but everyone says that no, he was actually a very kind, gentle man who was very terrified all the time. He had these handkerchiefs that you chew on all the time and stuff. And two examples that you give in I've heard in interviews is that, like, an interviewer would say, like, courage. You talk in your war films and in your heroic cowboy movies. Courage is it something did you believe is acquired, or is it something that you're born with? And his response is, well, how do you expect me to answer that? And then another example is this amazing sequence that you did where there was all this dust kicking up and it was like a full like battle. How did you shoot this big sequence in this movie? And his answer is with a camera. It's like, so he's just very brass tacks, very like, I don't see the art. Like, the movies are not art.
It's a John Carpenter type.
Exactly.
Where they're just,
But you can't help yourself when you watch it and you go, no, this is art. This is art a little bit. And I think that to Spielberg is very much like he wanted to fit that. He's always chasing that dragon, that elusive kind of like, I am just pumping out these shots, doing the work, but I'm trying to do it as best I can. And then later everyone will say, oh, wow, this is really influential and great. Who doesn't want to be John Ford in that respect? Right.
But yeah, Spielberg can't help himself to be like more optimistic or feel like that's kind of Spielberg always presents movies as being way more magical than these types of guys. But clearly these types of guys influenced him a lot. I mean, I'm talking about my favorite moment of this movie, which is when the tornado comes, and I'm not referring to the literal tornado. I'm referring to Judd Hirsch.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, where, like, his mom has, like, a dream that something horrifying is coming, and then Judd Hirsch rolls up.
He just rolls up, and he's just like, I'm here now.
Steals the movie for, like, 5 minutes and then leaves.
And what he talks about, which I think is, I really like what he talks about, because the one big thing that it's never talked about, and this is I think what Dave and I mean when it's like it works on us, because we're creative types. It is the concept that art is hard, right? And he's like, we get follow your dream movies all the time. But this movie points out that by walking that path, you have to leave something behind. And in this case, it's family. And he's like, so Judd Hirsch comes into this movie and he's like, you're like me. And that means you're going to be a loner and it's going to be awful because there's going to be stuff that are clear answers to you, like your family that love you and you love them. But you never love them as much as this camera machine. And that means that you're an asshole and you're selfish and you're going to leave them behind. And that's like, ooh, that's a hard pill to swallow.
And that's the other theme, or one of the other themes of this, about like reality versus art. There's also the idea of like sacrifice, like the idea of what his mom goes through, because his mom's an artist too, but she had kids and she's this feeling of sacrifice. And then at the end, when she leaves, she sort of explains like, nobody should have control over you, basically.
Right.
Like that she has to do this thing. Otherwise she's just going to be bitter and like slowly just get more and more like depressed and become less like their mom.
I love her little mini monologue where she's just like, Paul Dano doesn't deserve any of this. I'm the worst person. Like, right. She's like, I this is what I deserve, to stay with him and be unhappy. That crosses her mind and leads her for many years of her life. But then she realizes she can't do that to herself. No one deserves that, and that's the complexity of the divorce, is that there's nothing wrong. It's just there's unhappiness here. And the kids are like, but why? What's wrong? You guys are together. You guys, it's the same. It's as it's always been. It's like, well, of course, kids, because we've always been unhappy because we wanted something else.
Right. There's a lot of the idea of like the pursuit of your own personal happiness and the sacrifices that you have to make, or the shitty things you have to do that, and the decision to between personal happiness,
you feel like
and
the
what you
biggest
should do,
monster in the world, and you feel like you deserve your unhappiness, and that's just no way for anyone to live. And so it's very sympathetic to that, and it's also in a way makes Paul Dano, and this is also a knock I would give to it, I'm also making a film, an autobiographical film with my writing partner, Michael Swaim, and we've talked about this as well, is that sometimes you have the tendency when you look back in the past that you make like a monolith out of someone. And in this case, it's like Paul Dano is he's very perfect. A martyr. He's like, he sees the tragedy in front of him and he sees the infidelity and he's just like, okay, it's going to be fine.
I was really hoping you were like, we're also making a Spielberg biopic. And this motherfucker.
He beat us to it. The gall on the spit.
Who does he think he is? I think Paul Dano, there is a level of like, he's also pursuing his dream and he's dragging the family along.
Yeah,
and they do a little of that, but they definitely make him the most like sympathetic. Mm-hmm. But I think it's all right balance, because he's like, I'm like my mom, and my mom isn't. He also doesn't portray his mom as a villain. No. In my opinion, it's just one of those things people do. She's never a bad person. She's just stuck in this situation. Yeah. I think he did a very good job at showing everybody's perspective. I would say the one character that fell short to me is the bully, because he has to have that moment of like, the magic of film taught me a lesson. Sweaty. And it was like, the thing that made up for it. And I actually think if he's going to do this at all, he should have done it throughout. And he only does it twice. In that scene, the bully like cries, and he's like, you better not fucking tell anybody about this. And he goes, I won't, unless I make a movie about it. And then he's like, no, I'm joking. I'll never make a movie about this. Wink, and practically winks at the camera. And I actually think there could have been more of Spielberg doing that, taking like victory laps and being like, haha, fuck you, bully.
I mean, we're here. Why the fuck not? I mean, I think he did. He had the other that's why he had two bullies, because he wanted to have his cake and eat it too. He wanted both of them, both things.
And I just mean there could have been more moments of just like what I liked. So I feel like this movie could have been really meta, like really like fucking like adaptation meta. because the two meta moments in it like that made me realize like this could have been Spielberg like showing what he learned through the way he makes the film too, and he doesn't do that nearly enough. He's just doing Spielberg. Like, I guess what I'm referring to is at the end, John Ford says, "Yeah, look at that horizon. Where is it? It's at the bottom. Look at the next one. It's at the top." What you probably quote it better, but it's like if it's
That's
at the bottom, it's interesting. If it's at the top, it's interesting.
In the middle,
the
that's
center,
not interesting. Now get
Exactly.
the fuck out of here.
And then he leaves, and the last shot is little Spielberg walking down the
That's
studio,
very
and
funny.
the camera adjusts itself shakily to put the horizon in the right
As
spot.
if the filmmaker is saying, "Oh, I got to be interesting,"
Yep.
and that's
And I
very
think
funny.
I think he could have done more of that.
I
I
think
think
he-
this could have
yeah.
Spielberg plastering himself all over the
See-
movie in terms of how it was being made.
I don't think that's Spielberg though. That's like
I know.
another
This was-
recent autobiographical like meta commentary on oneself was Weird. Did you
It's
watch
not Spielberg
Weird?
at all. Wait, Weird? No, I need to watch that.
Yeah,
so
you should
bad.
watch
I'm
Weird
so
because
excited for
that's exactly kind of what you're describing. But yeah.
I
back
just
to
think
Spielberg.
like he's trying to walk this path of being like a little tongue in cheek, like with the bully stuff. And also like I just think he should have went for it. And you're right that isn't Spielberg at all. So I was actually surprised he did as much meta stuff as he did.
I mean, yeah, I think. Well, when you see that he sees himself not as a subject and more as a character, then it becomes obvious. Then you go, oh yeah, he did take the wind out of the sails of Indiana Jones. Oh yeah, he does have fun when it's
Right.
Alan Grant. He likes to make fun. He likes to take your heroes and the people that you wish to do well and succeed in your movie, and he likes to say like, yeah, but they're just schlubs, they're idiots.
Yeah.
And that's what he sees like himself as a character in the movie, I think. I
Yeah,
mean,
for
both
sure.
literally, but also as the old man, the filmmaker. So that's why I think he's keeping it like at arm's reach.
Right.
But I know what you mean because Spielberg is so fun with those tricks. He's such like a Rolodex of, oh, I could do this. Like even look at the artifice in like the movie that he made for the prom, like for the high school that he like. So.
Right.
That it's like engaging. He does little tricks where it's like, I'm going to get a shot of a bird and then I'm going to whip down and then I'm going to put whipped cream, splash some whipped cream on people's faces. Like he just invented a gag that would, I don't care what age you are. If you had a group of people who knew each other and you did like a little game like that, you were fucking killing it. You were
Yeah,
going to
and he shows-
destroy that whole audience. You know?
He shows how effective it is because he shows not just that, but then he does the setup of the guy yawning, and everybody goes, "Oh, fuck."
yeah.
Like
he's going to get shit into.
And he's like he's not spelling it out, but he's explaining, like what the
Little
magic
tricks.
of editing is.
Little tricks.
Like, yeah,
I've learned.
little tricks. Here's all right.
yeah.
So here's what I think is a snag with this movie. We were talking about the concept of like sacrifice and art and how it has to like kind of make you very lonely and lead you down this path. The problem with this movie is that it's made by Spielberg.
Sure.
Like the kind of the same way La La Land did this, where La La Land is even worse, where it's La La Land was definitely about that, right? It was about sacrificing personal life for art, right? Mm-hmm. But the problem was that they were both really good at their art and succeeded incredibly and had no like that's kind of like it's actually very smart of Spielberg to not do any of the studio stuff. Like it ends when he gets to the studio because it is sort of like he knows this. Like I'm sure he knows this just like any like famous celebrity knows is that they got incredibly lucky and obviously he's incredibly talented too. Right. But it's just so hard to get that message from Spielberg.
Yeah.
Like this is almost a more, I think this movie would have been more interesting about someone who has to struggle with that. It's the special boy thing where it's like they're always so fucking special because in this case, Spielberg absolutely was special. Mm-hmm. So that's what I mean by like it's hard to have Spielberg telling the story, and addressing those things.
Yeah, no, it's frustrating. I'll agree that it's frustrating.
I guess what I'm saying is I don't think
gamers would say
his
at this-
perspective he has. It's hard, like, and again, it's not his fault, but his perspective is not the common perspective. Right.
But he's not.
And it works for movies, for telling a story
Yeah.
where, the hero has to succeed at the end. But when you're talking about this subject of, like, what people give for their art, part of what people give for their art a lot is time. And like.
Yeah. And the privilege. And these are all very real things, you know?
Right.
Like
the part. Oh, sorry.
Keep going.
Oh, the part where he, right near the end, where he gets home and he's like, I feel like my life is passing me by and I haven't accomplished anything. I was just like,
You're
relax,
16.
man. You'll make Jaws.
You're like 17.
Don't worry.
Yeah, you'll make Jaws. That's funny.
I don't feel bad for you.
No, that's right. Especially with the privilege stuff and the concept, like it's a well-to-do family. His dad is constantly moving around because he keeps, getting hired to the next level. And that's,
sorry.
Well, just but I don't know. I don't see that as legitimate.
I'm not going to judge someone if they're like wealthy growing up. You know what I mean? It's not about that.
I mean, you can. I'm just, but
what I mean is just that it's hard to make a movie about the subject he's making it about, or like the subject matter when where he's the person he is. Like it's tough, man. It's like I want to see this version where. What? Yeah, I know.
It's I don't mean that to like none of it matters. It's a movie. I mean like it's supposed to make you feel something and root for a character. And this is a very effective way in which it works. I mean, I know what you're saying, but I don't think it's that legitimate of a knock on the movie just because I don't think that the movie itself is like trying to say that all people go out and get a camera and you'll be as good as me. That's not what the movie's saying. That's your read of the movie. The movie's just saying this happened to this guy.
Right. I guess that's what I'm getting at is that no, you're right. It isn't saying that, but it's touching on that idea of sacrificing for art, right?
Yes.
And it's touching on all these concepts, and it's a fun story. I guess what I'm saying is when you're talking about like passion and art, I don't think this movie by design can nail it like something like, I don't know, Living in Oblivion did.
Right.
Where it's like about the desperation of indie filmmaking.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or like American Movie or something like that.
No, I think that there's, depending on, there's something you can't replace in a movie, which is it's like a chess game, your moves. And in like American Movie is a great example. The moves to failure are indicative of something that's so clearly it's lobbing its arguments at like, well, look at what happens when you do this. And then if those were successes, it would mean a completely different thing. In this movie, it's a series of everyone gets a little success, everyone gets a little failure, but in the end, you're going to make it, buddy. And it's true that isn't true for everyone. So that is a valid concern about life. I just think that we go to movies to escape life is all I'm saying.
Yeah, I also don't think it's fair to this movie. I guess what I'm saying is just that they're like, it's not really a hit against this movie. Okay. More of like I couldn't help thinking about other movies that tackle this subject.
Tackle the subject. Yeah, no, those are I think that one of the biggest docs about it is you really feel the stage managed version of his life. Throughout this movie, and so going back to what you said earlier, which the biggest thing in the way of this movie is Steven Spielberg himself making it.
In terms of the movie itself, I almost want him to pick a lane more where it's like make it like magical and like meta and out of control, or like really ground it. Because I don't believe that he showed up as Bully with the magic of film. I just don't.
And I don't believe that bully would cry or have that reaction, because I don't think that people are in high school that way. They could be, but it just didn't spark true to me. There are things that spark very true to me that I was very blown away by, because I was like, I did not think I was going to get that level of introspection and honesty from Spielberg, who is a manufacturer in his soul, but there's this artist soul that he's, had in his presentation and he's had in his themes and like what his movies cover, but he's always been very, like distant and just like transparent in the way that he presents it, kind of like a teacher would, these are the facts. One of those moments that really affected me, and I'll just describe it. And I actually want people in the comments who have seen this movie to say, because I would love to read if they have had this experience as well, especially from people who never really picked up a camera, which is I loved Sam as a cameraman during the divorce scene. Do you know the moment I'm talking about? The family,
where he's imagining himself as the cameraman,
and he sees it in the reflection. So the family's they're most unraveled and most intimate in their arguments, and they're dealing with this heavy offer, which is we're separating. And it's, for me, in my personal life, and in some of the larger moments in my life, the times with my loved ones where things felt broken, and I knew in the moment that this would have like reverberations down the line, my brain would do anything to escape. And one of those things that I've thought a few times is, boy, I wish I could film this. And I know I've been right every time in that statement, and it would have been a great footage. But where Spielberg kind of stops the thought is, like, I'll just add that I think what a monster you'd be to actually do that. What an absolute freak I am.
Hard agree, by the way. I've had the exact same.
Yeah, I want Spielberg to know that we're freaks together, and I also want to like ask, is this more universal than I think?
So I actually expected more of that in this movie, and I think it's actually a thread that's missing, and maybe it's just because Spielberg never felt this way, but I was fully expecting him to be way more emboldened behind a camera, because for me a camera was a crutch early on, where it's socially, like, you're hiding behind the camera, and it was really helpful. And that's kind of what that showed to me, is this disassociation, this idea of like thinking about getting the shot, or like that this would be a good scene as a way to just disconnect emotionally from what's happening. You could think
about work.
And there was a little of that, but I thought there'd be a lot more.
I thought there would be more, especially with that kind of chameleon aspect that you spoke to, because it's like, it really is something where you turn into a role. Because, like, think about a wedding photographer, What is it? There's like a Sherlock episode where it's like the wedding photographer is the perfectly suited person to do a crime because he's invisible, and stuff like that. But it's true. Like you become invisible, and that is a great way to get away from being a part of it.
I was a wedding videographer, and I killed so many people during my time there.
Exactly. But it's also
it is like you feel way more invisible. Like, I thought that stuff with the bully, that's what I really liked. And I almost wish there was more of that throughout, of like, I didn't need the bully. Like, I didn't need the bully confrontation. I would have been happy with the part where the bully kind of realizes, like, holy shit, he made me look good. And then maybe just a smile and a nod, really.
That's
like,
what I was expecting, is him to be like, I look like a golden god, which is, by the way, if It's As Always Sunny in Philadelphia hadn't taken that term, that would be in this movie. But he was like, I was like some golden thing that, like, and he's just, and then he was made sad because he'll never live up to that, is like the subtext.
That was the part that was weird.
Scene. Yeah. That's, to me, the step that he would never take.
Yeah, I know this is more cynical, but I almost expected more of like the bully to not barely recognize Spielberg or Fabelman, and like they do the part where he just kind of fucks off and goes to the hallway, and he's having a terrible night, and everybody loves it. And I know that's like kind of leaning on the troubled genius idea, but it is like, I thought that's what more of he was saying, is like, director's job is to make other people look good. Like, that's the thing, or look a certain way. And so like I just. Yeah, I think he leaned into that a little too much.
It is a great, like, I think the bully should have asked, like, why did you make me look that way? Yeah. I didn't deserve that. Like, that's a good angle.
You could have had someone else ask him. I think that, again, he's trying to tell a lot of, there's a lot of emotional threads, and he has every right to do that. I think what I was most fascinated by, though, is that idea of like his relationship with the world, and then his relationship with the world through the camera. I would have loved to see more versions of that, even if it wasn't true, where it's like him filming his family versus how his family actually is, him filming his high school versus how his, and just talking about Like that would have been really interesting to see Spielberg talk about, like how film changes reality is essentially what that is.
How
and
the manufacture aspect, which to me, that's him holding on to the keys. You know, like that's him saying, like, I'm never going to give you my secret sauce.
Right.
But the reality is there's no real secret sauce. He's just an incredibly well-researched thinker. That's every expert ever.
It would have been amazing if in this movie he met a genie and the genie made him famous.
And it was
we all have
Idris
to walk
Elba?
out of it. Yeah, sure. No, we all have to like walk out of it wondering like, wait, is that what happened? Is that what he
Did
thinks
he
happened?
get wishes?
Yeah.
Are you fucking... Is Jurassic Park a wish? Are you a
Is that
wish
the
machine?
result of a genie
And then
wish?
it just cuts to it cuts to Spielberg at the end. It's actual old Spielberg, and he flies away on a magic carpet.
Yeah. And he just says it's
He goes,
all
it's all true. And I'm John Ford, and then he has an eye patch. Yeah,
sure.
I mean, like it. I think we joke about it because it's tough to love something so self-indulgent, right? I think that's also your impulse for why you were like, there's a lot of problems in this movie that relate to the fact that Steven made it. I think I think that's true, but I think it's okay to like things that are indulgent. I think that's fine.
Is like, I'm not mad at the movie. And I enjoyed it through and through. I laughed. I laughed when the old ladies laughed. I laughed at all this shit. I loved it. There's definitely parts where he just stops and says, let's have some fun. Mainly around that one woman. The one girlfriend is fucking great. And like Judd Hirsch, which is also a great childhood, because we've all sort of had that. Like from our childhood, like a terrifying old guy that we meet once and that is like related to the family and we never meet again. He was killing it. And like, I guess what I'm saying is that this didn't need to be wrapped up in a perfect little bow. This doesn't need to be for anyone because Steven Spielberg has spent an entire career making movies that have made me want to make movies. Yeah. You know? And so it's just
one
like...
for them, one for me now. From here on
and this is like, this is for you, and I'm enjoying it. I just don't expect the movie to, like, the theater to be packed with people. I don't expect this to necessarily... Like, I think this is deserving of some awards and shit.
I think it's going to do a lot better than it probably deserves.
I think it should get some acting stuff.
I think it should get acting stuff. There's a lot here, though. Like, I don't know. Like, the divorce stuff is real. It doesn't just create evocative scenes where it's just like, you know, come award season, you get like something like Marriage Story. It's like, well, of course, you know, like that. Look at those scenes. But like to me, when it comes down to it, there's a lot of there's a lot of situations that occur in this movie that he really, really did do the mining work ahead of time. And you really can feel it because it's all like, okay, so the dinner sequence with the monkey, right? And the Christian girlfriend is there, and there's
Sorry, for people who haven't seen it, or just probably like, wait, there's a monkey?
Yeah. And there's a conversation about Sam taking up filmmaking again after he's quit. And everyone is both saying what they need to say for themselves and responding in curt phrases. It's incredibly tight dialogue. I was very surprised.
Yeah, it was good.
By how it moves by so fast. It almost felt on pace with like a mumblecore script, like a Noah Baumbach thing, which is why I like mentioned Marriage Story. Like, come award season, this movie is going to get acknowledged for its writing and acting. But the themes at play to me are like, we've dunked on the bully arc and stuff like that, and the fact that Stevie is, you know, coming in hot with him saying, oh, another tweet I really liked was the one that was like, Steven Spielberg just came in and told everyone, I've been amazing at filmmaking since I was 4 years old, motherfuckers, deal with it. It's just like, that is the most baller move I've ever seen. you know, like that's it's really all of these things, but like, I don't know, to me, like what really hits when it really hits hard, it really does Like, there's nothing that isn't true about this movie, and I think that gives it legacy.
I think so. Talking about the broad subject doesn't even have to be Spielberg, of someone making their own autobiography in a movie.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the things about this movie that is an issue, but again, like I don't know this. I think this movie, like I don't think he needs to change a thing. He's Spielberg again, making a movie about being Spielberg, but I think it's that idea of if he was making a movie about someone else and looked at this script, he'd probably cut stuff and change stuff more because he'd be like, no, that's not exciting. We got to do this and that. Mm-hmm. Like, this movie is a little meandering. And I guess that's why a movie like Adaptation came to mind, because Adaptation is about real life versus cinema, right?
Right.
And the whole idea is cinema is exciting, real life isn't. And of course, Adaptation, the third act suddenly just goes nuts because it was the meta written by his brother or whatever. But like, I think that's, I guess, like, if you're going to make a movie about your life and you're not going to cut it out and you're just going to make it a little like I don't think the structure of this movie or pacing of this movie is particularly like tight or like even like it felt like weird, the pacing.
I mean, the family stuff is
like,
a slow burn because you have to like put all the parts together.
Exactly, and there's stuff where it's like, I don't know if we needed that much of him as a kid. And again, it's like the high school stuff feels like a totally different movie. And so he's trying to include all this stuff about his life. And again, he's showing that life is messy.
Right.
But if you do that, I do think, considering this is about someone who makes movies, like, it's hard not to just copy Adaptation, obviously, but that is kind of what he is showing to some extent, which is like, yeah, movies aren't messy. Movies are like, that last shot is purposefully looked like a fantasy. Like it's like Magic Hour, isn't it? In that shot,
yeah, it's like a sunset shot. It's a call to the Western. Yeah,
and so like, I don't know, him playing with that more or something. It feels like he had a lot to say, and he was trying to say it all in this one movie, and so it's like a little drawn out. A little messy, but I really enjoyed it.
It's so funny because I was gonna go I'm the opposite. I think it's because I'm director first and you're writer first. Charlie Kaufman seems more self-indulgent than this, and
that was super self-indulgent.
Like,
don't get me wrong.
Yeah, like and I don't just mean in terms of like I'm rewriting cinema. This is the great American movie. Like, that's not necessarily the self-indulgence I'm talking about. It's the to me, like, Charlie Kaufman is more meandering in Adaptation than any time in this movie. This movie is on rails in comparison to me. But that's just my read of it. Because
I wouldn't want this to be an Adaptation, for the record. But you know what I'm saying is that you making a movie, like, if you're making a biopic and it's about yourself and you can't leave anything out, because he clearly didn't want to like tighten it for like, he didn't want to like change too much. But he knows in his mind he has to be Spielberg. He has to still make a movie, right?
Right.
So like stuff like that bully speech, like that felt like Spielberg being Spielberg, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think it's just really hard because he's making a fucking movie about his own life. So it's like, it's hard to know what's important, what's not from that perspective.
Yeah.
And so like the movie's like, it really did strike me as like kind of anticlimactic a lot of the time because he was probably like, well, this is what happened. And life is not very climactic in most parts.
Right, yeah.
And so it's like, I don't know. That's why I'm saying, like, I would have been more interested in a movie about his relationship with filmmaking versus life because of that reason. Because it's hard to just tell his story when his story is... It's the same of, like, when you, like, the Johnny Cash biopic, where you watch it and you're like, oh, so... not much actually happened.
Yeah.
Where it's like the musician biopics where you realize like, oh, they're famous, so they made a movie about them. And you could argue this is sort of the same, where it's like, it's a good drama, but ultimately, like, if you were looking at the script and you were Spielberg, you'd go, let's make it more exciting or something. Let's make...
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. When I compare something like this to something like Walk the Line or something like that, to me, there isn't as nearly as much procedural, what's the word I'm looking for, like kind of making it grandirization, that's not a word, but you know what I mean, like the idea of making it feel like bigger than it's supposed to be and manufacturing that bigness. I think there's a humbleness in Spielberg where he always stays away from it. Even in his most self-indulgent moments where he's convincing a bully to be better because he showed him to be something better, and that angers the bully. Even that is not a win, really. The bully is like, well, anyway, go fuck yourself. Right. Their self-indulgence is also like the fact that the bully hands him a marijuana cigarette. I'm speaking like Michael Cera in Arrested Development. He hands him a joint and he goes like,
he smokes
and
it
he's
like
like,
a cigarette.
And he's like, no, I don't want this. And I'm like, yeah, we all fucking know, Spielberg, you're straight edge. It's fucking details of your life. That stuff, it's like him. You can't help but watch that. And
you know what
go and think in your head, okay, I'm watching a man explain himself to me. That is weird.
Yeah,
and that's unique.
Sometimes it's like people. It's just doing. He has a very difficult perspective on his own life. That's all, and so he just doesn't necessarily know what to leave, what to cut, or what to augment. But at the same time, I'm watching Spielberg make a Spielberg movie about Spielberg. Again, I'm not complaining. I do wish that bully, by the way, when he left, he was like, by the way, call me by my real name, Ricky Dreyfuss.
Yeah, exactly. There's no fucking way Richard Dreyfuss was like that in high school.
It'd be amazing if he called that shot like, yes, and that man was Richard Dreyfuss.
And then he was kicked in the balls and he cried.
Did you feel like Judd Hirsch was actually doing a little Quint? Like I got the feeling that Judd Hirsch.
Yeah, I
don't
know
know
what you mean.
if that was in the direction.
I don't
or not,
think
but
it was Quint specifically, but he was serving the same purpose as Robert Shaw.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like he not only just purpose. I think that Judd Hirsch was specifically signaling in on the, I'm the guy who's going to snap you out of your nonsense. Like you have a belief, and that belief is this isn't important enough to really think about. I am here like a force of nature, like you said it perfectly, a tornado to like look into my soul. I'm telling you what my soul is. It's a very like Marlon Brando thing, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah,
I feel like Judd Hirsch should get nominated just for this one scene. He was so much fun.
He was really fun. That whole scene is fucking amazing. I love how he rips his shirt and he's like, all right, that's enough of grease.
Well, that is, I've learned this recently. That is a part of Jewish mourning.
Shiva,
Nowadays, they give you a fabric to rip usually.
Yeah. Because
people are like, this is my nice outfit. I'm wearing it for a funeral.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to rip this.
This is a nice shirt. I bought this shirt. No, it's very practical. For this. Very practical grieving.
Yeah. Man. Yeah, this is one of those situations where, like, I can pick at this, but the truth is that I enjoyed it through and through. I noticed its length a little bit. I noticed during that it felt a little, like, narratively a little messy. It's certainly not my favorite Spielberg film, but it's again, like, I don't know. It's fucking good for him. I enjoyed the shit out of it. I thought it was actually going to be a lot less entertaining. Like, I was laughing during this. I had a lot of fun. The part where she like does the hairspray, like he did a lot of really funny comedic beats. Like I always forget that about Spielberg.
That he's very
is
Looney
like
Tunes.
His comedic timing is great.
Oh yeah, and he's never not been that. Watch Sugarland Express, man. That's his second film.
It's more that whenever you like most of the time his comedic timing is like big because he's making movies about aliens and dinosaurs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so when it's just people in a car, you forget like, oh shit, he's really funny.
Gonna play, yeah.
Just with people, yeah.
Yeah. He's really good at it, and like, so many people who like surround him and orbit him throughout his career, like Joe Johnston. Like if you watch like October Sky, it's full of that kind of shit too. And it's almost like that stuff, seemingly unimportant, is the actual movie magic, because it's little small moments that culminate into this feels real. These characters feel right. They feel like someone I might know. And that connects us. And that, I mean, I sound like fucking Nicole Kidman in an AMC ad right now, but like, God damn it, that shit works on us because we long for it. We're like, we really need sometimes to reach out to this abyss and go, oh yeah, they see that part of the human animal too.
Yeah.
He's amazing at it.
Yeah.
And he always will be.
Movies.
Movies, man. They're back.
Yeah. Yeah. Heartbreak.
So if
Feels
you
good.
So go watch it again. I might watch it again. I don't know. I'm probably going to, before this podcast, you were like, I'm probably not going to see another movie in theaters until Avatar. And I'm like, yeah.
I'm just tired, man. This is a different conversation, but like,
right.
The pandemic has really made me lazy about movies where it's like, I have to go in, I have to talk to people, I have to sit down. There's other people here and they're talking. And it's like, what the fuck, man?
Oh, I was terrified that someone was going to sit like near me.
Yeah.
I was like, please don't be in the seat like 2 away from me even. It
Yeah.
used to be like 1 away. I was frustrated, but 2 away, it's like chill. Now it's like 2, even 3 chairs away from me. Like I'm going to lose it. I'm going to be very sad. And that's bad. I think that's us. I think that's us being our problem.
That's us.
Yeah.
We're the problem.
Yes.
No, because I don't know. I've been going to movies a lot, mind you. I mean, I see a movie once a week for this, and I often... Like Halloween spoiled me because everything was on streaming. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, I tend to go into a movie theater once a week. I enjoy it greatly. I miss the ArcLight. Because I am like...
I miss the ArcLight too.
Yeah, AMC is fine, but like for people who don't know what the ArcLight is, it was a theater for adults. And what I mean by that is it had only, and they boasted this, 7 minutes of trailers. Nothing more. Nothing less. They had no like, oh, get here for the 20 before the movie.
Yeah.
None of that shit. It was just like slides. They had a nice little bar. They sold candy and popcorn. They sold all the regular shit, but it wasn't like out of control.
The seats are fucking nice. Like I don't know. It's just the angle was perfect. It was a streamlined fucking experience, and it's gone, and we can just be sad about it. Okay,
yeah. It's the kind of place that you could, if you was like kids, you could turn around and go, "Shut the fuck up," and then an usher could come in and be like, "Are these kids bothering you?"
Yeah, exactly.
And kick out the kids.
Kick rocks, kids.
Yeah,
These
it was like
teens
Alamo,
gotta go.
You know, that they have the same deal.
Yeah,
and I don't know, like that's part of his AMC. I always feel exhausted afterwards because it's like going to a casino.
Catered to
and I know I sound
experiences.
super old saying
no. It's because it's catered to families, and we're not family men.
Yeah.
So,
and
so
I hate
it's
families.
like, oh yeah, kids are everything about kids we love.
Oh no, see, a stray kid here and there, I'm fine with. A family is the worst.
I see a stray kid, I'm going for blood.
All right, that's fair. That's fair too.
It's just how I am, how my mom raised me.
What else? Anything else?
I mean,
are you good?
Just one last bit, I think, just to sum up. Like, I have to say, like, it worked on us, right? And we can't help our critical minds, so we did say some critical things in this podcast. But just to tell you the level of consistency that I had with this movie, like, I literally have a mother who's like the artistic one, and the father who's like the practical one. Like that amalgam that makes Stevie, like, according to Steven Spielberg now, that Steven Spielberg sauce that made him. I think I'm always going to love this movie because, of course, if you're a filmmaker and Steven Spielberg is like, I'm like you, you're going to go, oh, daddy, you know, like, and so there was no getting around that. So my absolute love for this movie and for Steven Spielberg in general is never going to go away. I'm biased and I am committed to that assessment because it's so far connected. I am tribal about Steven Spielberg. So take whatever I say with a grain of salt is I guess what I'm saying.
So going back to Walk the Line, which is a weird comparison, but like maybe had I seen Walk the Line, if I was really into country music or Johnny Cash
or alcoholic, like
or
fathers.
or pill popping, like that would have been something. And that's what I'm saying about the fundamental problem with a biopic is that if someone went into this movie and didn't care about Spielberg, I just imagine they must be so bored by it. They must be like, Jesus fucking Christ.
And they're on
like
Twitter
making a
right
jerk
now.
off motion and leaving.
And they're
you know?
hilarious, to be honest. Their observations are the greatest because they can look from outside and peer in and go, look at these fucking self-ingratiating filmmakers. And I
tend to...
it's fucking hilarious.
Yeah, and I tend to hate movies about making movies. Like, that's why I was thinking of La La Land, which is a movie I did not like.
Yep.
And it's kind of a lot of, in the places, the same message. And it's like, well, why didn't I like that, but I like this? The answer is because Spielberg made this. And Spielberg's better.
He had fun with it, and it wasn't so self-serious. And that's, I think, a huge hurdle to get over when you're making a biopic of any kind. And that's why we mentioned La La Land and Walk the Line as in comparison films, even though they're nothing like it, you know, when you look scene to scene, because we're tired of that iteration of that thing. This is, if you have yet to see it, it's not that. It doesn't actually really feel like look at the grandeur of Spielberg, because
he had more fun
because he made it himself. So that's why I was pushing back a little bit earlier. Is I was like, the fact that when we do these Rocket Men, we say like, oh, look at how their legacy and how great they were. Spielberg gets the right to be like a little bit humble, right? And so he can be like, I'm just a piece of shit anyway.
It's also fascinating to watch someone, again, it's not every day someone can make a movie about themselves. Most of the time, that gets outsourced to a filmmaker, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, this is a very unique situation of watching someone.
Yeah.
Like, and so, like, you watch it and you're like, this might not be everything that happened, but there's a truth here. Or at least we're seeing his truth, you know?
Yeah.
Like, obviously,
the truth he wants
it's from one person's perspective. But, like, it's just interesting to see how Spielberg thinks of himself and his life. And knowing that watching it, it's fascinating. Every other scene, they should have been talking about how big his dick was. I think that would have been amazing.
That's what I'm talking. Weird Al's weird,
shit.
like that shit. That shit. It's so fucking good. But yeah,
wait.
like that's again not like we need to fucking tell you that Spielberg is good, but he's all. You never feel in all of the manipulation. You never feel like he's a liar.
Right.
And he's lying to you. That's what that's what movie is.
Well,
movie is lies.
So good. Like the tornado I referenced, there is a part with a tornado. I don't disbelieve that for a second, because that was the sort of shit my dad did. Basically, like, there's a tornado and the mom puts them all in the car and goes, let's go see it.
We're going to go
and drives into the tornado. And it was like, oh, yeah, I bet that actually legit happened.
I fucking love that, though, because, like, look at how tornadoes are typically used, Wizard of Oz and whatnot. Look at Coen Brothers' Serious Man. Tornadoes there to represent, like, things are coming and they're going to crush you. In this movie, the tornado represents the missed opportunity. She was also going there to try to meet a tornado, and she never got there.
It's also like chaos. Like, she's going directly into
the
heart of chaos.
She wants something, and she can't even get it. It dissipates before they...
And then later she gets a monkey, and it's the same feeling. It's like... She's just... And so, like, tornado, monkey, that all equals I want to fuck Seth Rogen. So it makes sense.
They're all... I imagine... having sex with Seth Rogen, you could say, is like it's like a tornado of monkeys.
Tornado of monkeys, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think he said that in social media. So.
I think so too.
Man, imagine that. Imagine that sex.
What, tornado monkey?
Yeah,
that would be cool, man.
It would be kind of.
That'd be real cool.
Like a consenting tornado monkeys.
Yeah,
like an orgy.
Like they all, did you say consenting?
Yeah,
like I assumed consent was involved, but you're right. That is kind of a tough. You need them all to consent, and if they're already in a tornado, you have to like set it up.
They're whipping around, so you probably have to take a bunch of photos to like catch them, but hopefully they're giving a thumbs up. You know,
right?
Like, we're good to go.
Yeah.
We're good to go.
Put a sign that says thumbs up for consent. and then you get all the thumbs up, and then you stick it right in there in the tornado monkey.
In the tornado, and what happens in that tornado happens,
Yeah.
And that's what Steven Spielberg is saying about his mom.
Yep.
Yep.
All right.
We did the movie, man.
Yeah, I think we're good. I think you'll probably have more to say about this, but you have another podcast where you can do that. So
Yeah, so I can get the fuck out of here. Yeah, it's always a pleasure talking movies with you, man. You're a man who shares my movie heart. And
Thank you.
It's always a pleasure.
yeah, we have one heart, and it is not a healthy heart, but we
Yeah.
have it. It's ours.
I'm gonna need it at like 8 p.m. tonight. By the way,
That's fine. That's totally
right, cool.
fine. I'm not using it. Listen, thanks everybody for listening to us. Abe, thank you for being my guest co-host.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to plug again stuff?
Movies. The concept of movies. Go out and see them.
Yeah, actually, I'll also plug movies. Go see movies.
Mm-hmm.
There's good movies. Go, see this. This is a good go see it with your family type movie, right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
PG-13.
So the holidays are coming up. You're staring at each other. You all hate each other. You don't know what to do. Go see this movie.
You'll laugh and admire each other a little bit better. After.
Exactly.
It's that kind of movie.
Yeah, I'm going to plug our Patreon real quick. Patreon.com/gamefully unemployed, GAMEFULLY, unemployed. For $5 a month, you get access to a bunch of podcasts. We do a couple with the small beans, like Spiel Boys and Star Trek The Next Futurama. We also do Tom and Jeff Watch Batman and Fox Mulder is a Maniac. We watch movies with our patrons every Friday night. We do custom We Just Watch, custom podcasts. This month, there's a lot of stuff going on, including Bud Rain. The first episode of it has already come out. That's going to be every Friday. There's 3 of those. We also got some special Christmas holiday specials. Some pre-recorded stuff while we're gone. So I don't know. Keep us in your heart and in your terrible heart, and look and give us reviews. You can go to gamefullyunemployed.com for T-shirts and junk. Okay, that's it. What else?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Nothing. You can signal to the audience that they may close their ears and stop listening.
Okay.
Now, I think.
All right. Begin closing your ears.